الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين وحبيب قلوب العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please bless this gathering with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. My dear loved ones, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Again, I commend you on your continuous journey through this holy month of purifying your souls, of engaging in fasting, engaging in prayer, engaging in reciting the Holy Quran. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our a'mal. And I ask you to please not forget me in your dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my dear loved ones, in the Holy Quran, in many instances He swears. He takes what is known as qasam. He swears. He says, وَلَا رَبُّكَ. He swears by Himself. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. He swears by the sun and by its brilliant ability to illuminate this world. He swears by the night. He swears by the moon. He swears by the nafs that He created. And Mufassirin have mostly agreed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He takes an oath, He takes a qasam, when He swears by something, it's to indicate the importance of what comes after it. You see, for example, Surah Al-Shams, it's the surah with the most amount of swears on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 11 times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears, more than any other surah. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. Until He gets towards the end of the surah, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. أحسنت. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by 11 natural things, natural phenomena. Some of the most powerful of His creation, for example, the sun. When you look at the sun, an incredible creation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without the sun, life on earth would not exist. Would not exist at all, not for a second. We would freeze without the sun. The way the sun is distanced from the earth is perfect. If it was closer, it would not be sufficient for human life. It was further, it would not be sufficient. The center of the solar system, why is it called the solar system? Who knows? Why is it called the solar system? Because because the sun is at the center of the solar system. Ahsant. A loud salawat for this courageous young brother. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. And the sun is a benefit, a blessing that we take for granted. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He swears by the sun. And He swears by the moon. And let me ask you, the moon, where does it get its illumination from? Does it have its own light? The moon, it's illuminated by the sun. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He swears by all this to get to a point. وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا قد أفلح من زكاها. تزكية النفس, my dear loved ones, the purification of the soul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to illuminate how important this is in our lives, to constantly better ourselves. It's not that we're all ma'soomeen or infallibles. Of course not. We're far from that. None of us are even ulama. None of us are even great scholars. We just strive to be better than the day before. That's the most important thing when it comes to tazkiyat an-nafs. I look to my soul. I see what I have in terms of the shortcomings. I say, this is what I want to improve. This Ramadan, I want to stop ghiba. This Ramadan, I want to stop wasting my time, wasting my life, hanging out in majalis al-battaleen. I want to stop staying up until Fajr, doing nothing with my life. This is what I want to enhance in my life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Asr, He swears by time. Wal-Asr, He swears by time. And Mufassireen have given multiple meanings for this word, Al-Asr, Wal-Asr. First of all, my dear loved ones, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by the time of Asr. The time of Asr, in which there is a natural transition between day and night, a natural transition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala engineered. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us an example of how He pulls away darkness and He pulls away light from the day and from the night. Allah says, وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ اللَّيْلُ نَسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارِ. It's not like a light switch, right? Right now, when you walk into a room and it's dark and you're looking for something, you've lost something, what do you need? You need someone to turn on the light. And when they turn on the light switch, does it take a while for the light to communicate to the light bulb and then the room is illuminated? No, it's immediate. You hit that light switch and immediately the room is illuminated. In the same way, you turn it off, darkness. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He transitions the time of day. This is amongst His mercy. Imagine you're outside, you're working. If you're a farmer, if you, for example, are a laborer, whatever it is, you're even driving, you're walking, and it's complete illumination and then darkness, immediate darkness. This would be frightening. This would be inconvenient. This would not be among Allah's mercy, my dear loved ones. That there is not a natural transition from day to night, from night to day. This is amongst Allah's signs, my dear loved ones. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by this time, the time of Asr, the time in which, right now during Ramadan you're getting home from work perhaps, you're preparing yourself to come to the masjid, you're preparing yourself to have iftar with your family, with the community members, with your loved ones, to enlighten yourself, to engage in dua and supplication, reading Quran. And it's a time that the hustle and bustle, the busyness of the day is transitioning towards night. This is a natural transition, my dear loved ones. The second view that some Mufassireen say, and this is specifically a Sunni understanding of this meaning of Asr, is it is Salat al-Asr. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة صلاة الوسطى. أحسنت. And their understanding is that, Salat al-Asr is that middle prayer. But our scholars have followed the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. They have understood through the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt that in fact Salat al-Wusta is Dhuhr, because that is the immediate half of the day, is Dhuhr. Another meaning for the word Asr, my dear loved ones, Mufassirin say, is Asr al-Islam. The beginning of when the religion of Islam started, the birth of Islam, Asr al-Islam. The beginning of the bi'tha of our holy prophet Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Because this was a time in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created immense change. Immense change. Think about it. Those Arabs of the Jahiliyyah that would take their daughters, they would bury them. They would worship idols. They had no dignity, no integrity for human life. They would engage in wars, endless wars over a race between camels. This guy's camel won, and he got upset, and now there's a war between tribes over a camel race. And then the Prophet comes with this message of Tawheed, this message of submissiveness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obedience to Allah, not to those tribal leaders of Quraysh, not bowing down towards their oppression, their racism, their division of the society, but bowing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And understanding this gives you dignity, this gives you self-respect. Even logically, if you worship more than one Lord, it strips you of your dignity. I worship this Lord for, giving me money, and this Lord for keeping me full from hunger, and this Lord is the Lord of giving me water, and now where's the dignity in this, my dear loved ones? When those idols have no power over themselves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing of that time, Asr al-Islam, the time in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the revelation to the Prophet, sent him as a rahmah to the entirety of humanity, the entirety of Allah's creation. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. So Allah, again, He's swearing by this time. Another meaning is Asr al-Dhuhur, the time in which our Mawla will reappear. Mawlana Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajah. This is the Asr in which He will reappear. They are swearing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by this. The Mufassirin have given this meaning. And again, a time of great change. Right now, when you see that the world is engulfed in evil, engulfed in transgression, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates an immense change, purifies this earth, purifies it, creates a just society. Because what will our Mawla do when He comes back? Is He coming back to simply, hang out here? Or no, He has a mission. The Mawla has a mission when He returns, and we have to prepare ourselves before that return. Before He reappears, I have to look to myself and say, am I one of those who's going to answer His call? If I sit around and I say, look at the world today, where is my Mawla? And I question, where is Allah? Where is my Mawla? Then obviously when He returns, you're not going to be amongst those that are chosen to follow Him. If you were not willing to stand when He was gone, why would He choose you when He reappears? You are not willing to sacrifice. Where is the hard work that you put in? Where was your investment? You invested nothing, so then you gain nothing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He swears by this time. And finally, one of the meanings of the word Asr is time. Time, the natural transition of time. The transition of day to night. The transition of time, how empires come, empires go. History, when we read history, that's an examination of how time works. We see that there's continued progression along time, either for the best or for the worst, but time progresses. Again, yesterday we were speaking about aging and the natural ways that we age, and ways that time changes us physically, we are changed by time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by time. Because time is something that's so important, something that's an incredible resource that He's given us, a ni'mah that He's given us. Our age, our energy, our time that we have, we must utilize it effectively. Right now, my dear loved ones, if someone were to come and swear to you, they just come and tell you, I swear. Right? Wallah, wal Kaaba, wal Quran, wal Abbas. You'll say, okay. Thumma madha. What are you swearing about? So when we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears, we have to say, what's next? What's after that qasam? Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr. Insan. What is insan? Insan is humans. Everyone that's a human, Chinese people, South African people, French people, Portuguese people, Italian, everyone. We are all insan, are we not? Humans. And we are in this state of khusr. What is this state of khusr? I'll give you an example, my dear loved ones. You see, imagine you're a businessman or a businesswoman, and you invest $20,000 into a business. You buy a product. You buy cell phones, for example. And you open up your business, and things don't go right, and you lose that money. You lose that capital. You lose that $20,000. Now, what have you lost? If you think about it, what have you lost? You've lost a material, which is money. But your body is the same. Your soul is the same. Hopefully your deen is the same. It's money that you lost. And money is a material that can be replaced. Money comes and money goes. But loss at a large scale, the scale that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, is a different kind of loss. It's not the economic loss. It's not that I lost some money, my dear loved ones. And we have to understand that money comes and goes in a natural way because that's a part of business. One day you make money in your shop, one day you lose money. One day you make a lot more money with a client, one day you make less money. This is business. It's a natural way of making money. An interesting story about how business works, you know. In 2020, there was a young man who invested some money in cryptocurrencies. I'm sure you guys all have heard of what those cryptocurrencies are, huh? Bitcoin and Cardano, whatever. And many people now are smiling, nodding. Everyone knows about cryptocurrencies. So this young man, his name is Richard Dobatsi, a 31-year-old man. He took out a home equity loan, $30,000. He said, I'm going to invest $15,000 and I'm going to hold $15,000 so I can spend, you know, because I'm not going to be working, I'm going to be just crypto investing. And he said, I put that $15,000 into my crypto fund and I was working 24/7, day and night, day trading. Every single second, I'm checking my phone, checking the computer, checking the laptop, checking the news. Every second, I'm on this cryptocurrency. And he says, within a couple weeks, I turned this $15,000 into a $1 million. $1 million in a couple weeks. And then he becomes greedy. He says, it's going to go up a little more. It's going to go up a little. Let me wait. Let me see what happens. And then it starts to descend. La ilaha illallah. Now he's waiting. He says, khalas, it's going to go down, then it'll go back up, higher, double. And it goes down and down and down until he says, I was left with $6,500. This is one of the examples of how business works. One day, you know, this guy is crypto trading. In a couple weeks, he had $15,000. Then he had $1 million. Then he had $6,500. Maybe the week later he had 20. The week later he had 10. Back and forth. because that is not a constant, my dear loved ones. And there is a form of capital that we own that cannot be replaced. We have a form of capital that we can invest, that we own, that cannot be replaced. That is our souls. That is our souls. That is our time. That is our energy. That is our religion, our deen. If you sell your religion, you can't get that back. If you sell your soul, you have to be careful who you're selling it to. Because the return on that investment might not be what you were expecting, my dear loved ones. And that works in a way that, there are some that lose $10, some that lose $10 million. And the same works for us. Our loss, when we are prepared to leave towards the akhirah, our loss could be $10 or $10 million. If tomorrow Malik al-Maut comes and is ready to take our soul, and I haven't prepared anything for the akhirah, I'm at a loss. I'm a loser. That's the reality, my dear loved ones. So we must think in how we can fix our mindset. True winners. How can I be a true winner, my dear loved ones? Mawlana al-Imam al-Hadi, he says, الدنيا سوق ربح فيها قوم وخسر آخرون. This dunya is a marketplace. It's a marketplace of ideas. It's a marketplace of business and of the akhirah. It's a marketplace of what you do to benefit yourself here and that you're hereafter. In this dunya, there are those who win and those who lose. And the meaning of this is that you have tangible results when you go to your next life. Because this is not, my dear loved ones, your final destination. This is just a bridge between where you're at now and your final destination, the akhirah. Imagine right now you're going to visit some family, in the Middle East, and you take a very long trip, and you have to have a layover somewhere. You have a layover in Europe and Turkey, wherever it is, and you have a long layover. And to you, a long layover is maybe 24 hours. That's a long layover. Would it make sense for you in this 24 hours to go and rent an apartment, to go and furnish that apartment, to go and buy new clothes and stock a fridge, go and apply for jobs in those 24 hours? Would that be logical? I'm asking you guys. No. Because your final destination is elsewhere. It's to go see your family. Imagine your family calls you, what are you doing? Oh, I'm here in my layover and I'm renting an apartment. It would sound ridiculous. And this is the same way that we sound when we focus only on this dunya. I want to build only for here. I don't care about what's coming next, my dear loved ones. And it's easy for us to lose track and lose focus. According to Experian, which is a financial institute, over 50% of millennials, they have side hustles, right? Side hustles. Because, millennials, unfortunately, unless they have 6 jobs, they can't make ends meet. But the reality is that we focus a lot on how many income streams I can generate, how much money I can make in different ways, how much I can benefit myself here in this dunya while I'm sacrificing the akhirah, my dear loved ones. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us instruction. He teaches us about a different form of transaction, a different form of business, a different form of contract. He says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا هل أدلكم تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم. O you who believe, we believe, right? O you who believe, O you Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, O you Shia of Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, you who believe, do you want me to lead you to a transaction, to a business that would save you from immense pain, from immense struggle, hardship. And this is not only in the akhirah, my dear loved ones, in the dunya as well. Because when we engage in situations that are of ill repute, if we get into conditions, if we make the wrong friends, we hang out with the wrong crowd, in this dunya we're going to be affected before the akhirah. I waste my time all day with a group of friends that wakes up, at 2 p.m. and they hang out all day and they're doing nothing with their life. And this is going to affect me today, before tomorrow, my dear loved ones, before the akhirah. How am I going to excel if I'm not able to utilize my time effectively? And we spoke yesterday about how important it is to utilize our time effectively. How important it is, especially when we're youth, to grasp that opportunity we've been given, my dear loved ones. We have to understand that Allah has given us an understanding within the Holy Quran of a tijara, a commerce that can save us in this dunya, my dear loved ones, and in the hereafter. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, He tells us that those who recite the Quran, those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who have iman, and those who struggle, my dear loved ones, وَأَنفَقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيَةً يَرْجُونَ تِجَارَةً لَن تَبُورَ. Those who do infaq with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them from resources, they are looking for an investment, my dear loved ones, that would never expire. Because right now the example I gave earlier, you can buy cell phones, right? What's the current iPhone right now? The newest iPhone? 16? Imagine you go and buy 200 iPhone 16s and you sell 100 of them, and then 5 months later the new iPhone 17 comes out and you're sitting with those iPhone 16s. That's a good that expires. A lot of goods expire, my dear loved ones, but this tijara, this good does not expire. When we give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with what He has given us, I'm thanking Allah. I'm making a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you have given me these blessings, this sustenance, this rizq, and I'm not wasteful with it. I spend it in the right places. I help others with it. I give my religious dues with it. When there's someone in need, when there's a specific project, if I have a community center, if I have a place that I can support, that's where I give my funds, my dear loved ones. It doesn't matter where you give your funds. Just do it in the right place. I'm not trying to convince you where to donate. I'm convincing you to donate. Just simply give where it matters. Help orphans. Help someone in your community. Help someone back home. Help feed someone in your own community here. For us to engage in this tijara, my dear loved ones, means that it does not expire. And with our souls, with our nafs, my dear loved ones, when we sacrifice in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to our soul, when that nafs, al-nafs al-ammara bis-su' comes to you and tells you, you know what, just do ghibah, it's not a big deal. Everyone is hanging out and everyone is in, right now is Ramadan, and there's a lot of sahrat. MashaAllah, we stay up very late, especially on weekends. And when you hang out with people 4 or 5 hours and you've talked about everything, khalas, you finished everything to talk about. And then ghibah starts. For me to focus on my nafs, sacrifice, that aspect of my nafs means I hold my tongue. I don't engage in that ghibah. If someone comes and says, you know what, oh, this young lady, look at how she lives her life, and they begin to judge her, and they look at how she is, and so on and so, and you want to start engaging in that, hold yourself. Don't engage in that conversation, my dear loved ones. Your nafs, dedicate it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمْ الْجَنَّةِ. An example, my dear loved ones, of someone who truly gave his soul and his income to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. A man comes into the masjid, a man who is less fortunate, a man who is asking for some mercy from anyone, and everyone's engaging in salah. Amir al-Mu'mineen is in the middle of salah, and he reaches out his ring to offer this man. Even in salah, he's able to give what he owns. And his nafs, on the day of Uhud, what did Amir al-Mu'mineen do? With his steadfastness, with his willingness to protect the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when everyone fled, everyone, those that they call the wise caliphs, go and read what happened on the day of Uhud. What happened? And it was your Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen who stood strong, because he was not a person of this dunya. He was not a person of this dunya. He was not a person who was so afraid for power, pursuing khilafah, pursuing a position. He was a person who had given his entire soul to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the point that when he's in battle, he's defending the Prophet, his sword can no longer be used, it's broken. And even the malaika, the angels, are looking to this situation with awe. Go and read the traditions that state even the malaika in the heavens were in awe for his steadfastness, for his sabr, for his patience. And that is when Jibreel, he announces in the heavens, لا فتى إلا علي ولا سيف إلا ذو الفقار. For this moment, for the moment in which you give everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my dear loved ones. In the beginning of Islam, my dear loved ones, to signify allegiance, the Muslims would come to the Prophet and they would shake his hand. This was a form of bay'ah. We call it bay'ah, my dear loved ones. And this was them selling a part of their allegiance to the Prophet, was it not? Bay'ah means that you're selling something. You're selling some of your loyalty. You're selling a part of your allegiance to the Prophet. And this was an exact understanding that they are engaging in this contract between them, between the Prophet, and between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine today, you have a person who spends their entire life in business, in growing a business. You spend 60, 70 years and you become someone who's wealthy, someone who's left with so many resources. You have land, you have money, you have cars, clothes, whatever it is. And then it's time for you to leave to the akhirah. And they ask you, okay, what have you prepared for your akhirah? Well, I have a lot of money that I left behind for those who inherit me. I have a lot of resources that I left behind for my waratha. But the truth is, my dear loved ones, we would be lucky that those who inherit us, after they spend all those resources, They would remember us to just recite a Fatiha for us, to engage in some good acts for us. It is that sadaqah jariyah that you engage in your life that allows you to have the investment in the akhirah. And this is how you become, obviously, a winner. So who are the winners, my dear loved ones? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes those who are the winners. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Those who believe, those who have iman, believe in Allah, believe in the hereafter, believe in the Prophet, believe in the day of judgment, in life, in death, in the sirat, in the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. This is true iman. You cannot have a complete iman without believing in all of Allah's commandments, in all of Allah's messages, the extension of which is the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So those are who have iman, my dear loved ones. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those who do وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. As-salihat means all of the salihat. Not they do something that is good. They do everything that is good. And these are interconnected, my dear loved ones. Iman and good action is connected. Some people ask, there's nice people. They do a lot of good things. Where are they going to end up? You see, we have to understand that iman and good faith, iman and good actions are interrelated. I'll give you an example. Imagine right now you travel. You travel far distances, far places, internationally. And one day you go to the counter to check into your flight and you say, I have all these miles. Can I be rewarded for them? Can I have an upgrade? And the person tells you, well, have you registered for that mileage program? You say no. This is the same essence, my dear loved ones. Iman and good deeds. They're interrelated. You can have hundreds and thousands of miles, but if you don't register for that membership, nobody is going to reward you for that, will they? This is the same understanding. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Haqq is justice. Haqq is being on the right side. If there is some oppression, you speak out. If there is something that is against haqq, you speak out. Haqq is Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Allahumma salli. And those who engage in sabr, my dear loved ones, having patience. There are three kinds of patience. Number one is the patience in the times of calamity, in times of hardship, right? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges you, He examines you, then you are patient in this time of hardship. You don't say, why me? Why am I chosen? You say, this is an opportunity for me to rise. This is an opportunity for me, my dear loved ones, to have hasanat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second is patience in obedience, in ta'atillah. Especially, these days in Ramadan, you might be by yourself at home. There's food, there's drink, there's everything available. No one's watching and you're hungry, you're thirsty. The patience to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The patience not to, go and vape or go and smoke or do whatever it is that you are really having an urge to do. You are patient in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And third is the patience to not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As-sabr al-ma'siyah, anil ma'siyah. When your nafs is telling you, you should answer this individual that is harassing you, for example. You should not forgive. You should not Treat them with respect. There is a beautiful story, my dear loved ones. One of the ulama, he says that I saw a situation that taught me a lot. He says, I saw that there were two ulama sitting in a gathering, and one of them, he tells the other, you know, you're not that knowledgeable, you're this and that. And there was some ill words that were exchanged by one side. So the other alim that was being abused, he got up and he kissed the hands of the individual who was disrespecting him, and he left the gathering. And he had a lot of followers, he had a lot of people with him, and they were dumbfounded. They didn't know what was going on. So when they go outside, he tells them, look, I'll tell you what was going on. When he was talking to me in this way, my nafs was telling me, answer him. I was telling my nafs, no, I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to answer him. I was teaching my nafs. I wasn't allowing it to coerce me. And this is that sabr, my dear loved ones. Very challenging to reach that sabr. But it's something that is important, something that we must all engage in and subscribe to, my dear loved ones. This is the path to success, the path to happiness, the path to a successful investment, an investment with high yield, high returns, and low risk, because you know it's for sure, it's for certain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not make a promise and then He breaks those promises. Wal-'iyadhu billah. He keeps those promises. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, to give us all the patience that we need in order to obey Him. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to truly have what it takes to be amongst those winners, those who have sabr, those who have patience, who do good deeds, who have iman, and that are not those who are amongst the losers. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله